The crystalline chambers of the Galactic Council sparkled under the light of 3 artificial suns, their prismatic walls reflecting the gathered assembly of 217 species. Dr. Amanda Reynolds stood at the central podium, her voice clear and measured, as she presented Earth's latest diplomatic proposal for sustainable energy sharing among developing worlds. The human delegate's dark blue uniform bore the simple Earth insignia. A globe surrounded by olive branches, no medals, no elaborate decorations like those that adorned the towering Zarkax representatives. Their scaled bodies were draped in military honors, their bioluminescent patches pulsing with what the other species had learned to recognize as barely contained disdain. The Earth Cooperative suggests a gradual implementation of fusion technology trading, Dr. Reynolds continued, her holographic displays showing resource distribution models. Our studies indicate that this approach would benefit not only the recipient worlds but also. The first plasma bolt caught her in the shoulder, spinning her around. The second one hit her square in the chest. The holographic display flickered and died as she collapsed, her expression more surprised than fearful. The chambers erupted in chaos as the Zarkax War Commander Crux stepped forward, his weapon still smoking. The Zarkax Federation rejects this proposal, he announced, his translator making his voice boom across the chamber. And we reject the notion that a species barely out of its gravity can dictate terms to the galaxy's elite. The other human delegates remained seated, their faces impossible to read. Ambassador James Chen, Dr. Reynolds' second-in-command, slowly stood and walked to her body. He checked her pulse with military precision, his movements deliberate and controlled. The chamber had gone completely silent. Protocol officer, Chen spoke into the silence, his voice carrying despite its softness. Please record that at 1547 Galactic Standard Time, the Zarkax Federation committed an act of war against Earth by assassinating a diplomatic representative under protection of Council law. War Commander Crux laughed, the sound like breaking glass. War. Your species can barely manage interplanetary travel. Your ships are primitive, your weapons pathetic. We studied your military capacity before this decision. You have no fleet, no planetary defenses that could stand against even our smallest battle group. Chen didn't respond to the taunt. Instead, he removed his insignia pin and placed it on Dr. Reynolds' chest. One by one, every human delegate did the same. The ritual took 3 minutes, during which no one in the chamber spoke or moved. The Earth delegation is withdrawing from the Galactic Council, Chen announced finally. We will return when justice has been served. He lifted Dr. Reynolds' body with unexpected strength, the pins on her chest catching the light from the artificial suns. As the human delegates filed out, the eldest member of the Marisk species, a race known for their psychological insight, suddenly stood. War Commander, the ancient being's translator crackled. Your studies of human history, did they include what happens when all their internal conflicts stop, when they unite against an external threat? Crux dismissed the question with a gesture. Their history is one of constant internal warfare. They cannot unite. It is not in their nature. You are wrong. The Marisk elders' biosignatures showed extreme distress. They can. They have. And when they do, the elders' warning was cut off by the sudden darkness that swept through the chamber. Every system, from the artificial suns to the most basic emergency lights, went dead simultaneously. When they came back online 17 seconds later, the human delegation was gone. In the following hours, as the Council argued about sanctions and responses, no one could reach Earth. Every communication channel had gone silent. Every human ship in space had disappeared from tracking systems. Every human embassy on every world had been evacuated with terrifying efficiency. The galaxy was about to learn why, throughout human history, the most dangerous moments weren't when humanity was shouting in anger, but when they went quietly to work. The news of Dr. Reynolds' death reached Earth at midnight Greenwich Mean Time. By 12:01, every major military installation on the planet had gone into silent running. By 12:02, the Internet had fragmented into its emergency protocols, something that conspiracy theorists had long suspected existed but had never been able to prove. Times Square fell dark for the first time in over a century, then blazed back to life with a single image. Dr. Reynolds teaching at Harvard, her hands animated as she explained xenobiology to a packed auditorium. The same image appeared on the massive screens in Moscow's Red Square, on the towering billboards of Tokyo, and across the sprawling digital displays of Shanghai. In Washington, D.C., the president stood before Congress, her words echoing through the historic chamber. For too long, we have maintained our divisions, played our parts as squabbling nations still learning to cooperate. That mask ends today. Protocol Omega is now in effect. Similar scenes played out in every major capital. The Chinese premier announced the activation of the Hidden Fleet. The Russian president revealed the existence of quantum communication arrays built into the Siberian wilderness. The European Union declared the launch of their underground manufacturing complexes. What the galaxy had seen as primitive military exercises were revealed as complex war games testing integrated command structures. Border disputes that had seemed to keep nations divided had been elaborate covers for joint training operations. In the skies above Earth, satellites that had appeared to be weather monitoring stations shed their civilian facades, revealing advanced defense systems. The International Space Station, long mocked by the Zarkax as an example of human technological infancy, opened panels that had been hidden in plain sight for decades, extending arrays of technology that no one had suspected Earth possessed. Underground bunkers in the Nevada desert, the Australian outback, and the Sahara hummed to life. Engineers who had posed as civil servants for years took their places at control stations. The global defense grid, disguised as a patchwork of primitive radar systems, activated its true capabilities. Ambassador Chen, now acting as Earth's voice, addressed the United Nations. The building was packed, not with diplomats, but with military commanders from every nation. Dr. Reynolds knew this day might come, he said, his voice steady. She helped design our response. Project Sentinel begins now. Across the planet, children were quietly evacuated to designated sanctuary zones, massive underground complexes that had been built under the cover of subway extensions and mining operations. These weren't crude bomb shelters, but rather self-sustaining cities with educational facilities and hydroponics farms. The Zarkak spies on Earth reported frantic activity, but their reports never reached their superiors. Each transmission was intercepted. Each agent was quietly contained. Humanity had known who they were all along, had fed them carefully curated information for years. In orbit, civilian ships began moving in precise, coordinated patterns. Vessels that had been registered as mining platforms and research stations formed up into battle groups. Their crews, who had trained for this moment through countless emergency drills, took up their true posts. The most shocking transformation came from the scientific community. Universities around the world revealed their hidden purpose. Each had been part of a vast research and development network. What seemed like competing institutions had actually been working in perfect synchronization, each piece of published research a small part of a larger whole that only now became clear. As the sun set on the first day after Dr. Reynolds' death, Earth had changed beyond recognition. The squabbling nations that the galaxy had dismissed were gone, replaced by a single unified force moving with terrifying purpose. In the depths of the Pentagon, a timer counted down. In exactly 24 hours, Earth would respond to the murder of their diplomat. But first, they would show the galaxy something far more frightening than military might. They would show them humanity's capacity for perfect, patient coordination. The last public broadcast before Earth went dark was a simple message, repeated in every language. Remember her name. Remember why we unite. Remember what they did not know about us. Then silence fell, and the real work began. The Zarkak's High Command received the first warning sign in the form of a simple message from their Cultural Analysis Department. Review Earth's Ancient Military Doctrine. The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Specific focus on. All warfare is based on deception. They dismissed it, just as they had dismissed the human's capacity for unity. That dismissal lasted until their primary research station in the Centauri system went dark. The station's final transmission showed Dr. Jessica Martinez, a simple exchange scientist from Earth, calmly removing her lab coat to reveal the uniform of Earth's Special Sciences Division. "Thank you for hosting me these past 5 years," she said into the camera, her fingers dancing across the station's control panel. "Your quantum encryption research has been most helpful in validating our existing systems." Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. The exchange students working on Zarkak's mining colonies revealed themselves as engineering specialists. The human maintenance crews on their space stations turned out to be military officers. Each revelation brought with it a new understanding of how deeply Earth had infiltrated their society. In the Rigel sector, a human bartender who had spent 8 years serving drinks to Zarkak's military officers activated a quantum entanglement device hidden in his bar's ice maker. The sector's entire defense network crashed as years of collected access codes were put to use. Dr. Reynolds' last published paper, released just days before her death, now revealed its true nature. What had seemed like theoretical musings about quantum computing actually contained the blueprints for bypassing every major security system in known space. She had hidden the keys to the galaxy in plain sight, disguised as academic speculation. The Galactic Council watched in growing horror as Earth's true technological level became clear. The primitive fusion drives on their ships peeled away to reveal quantum propulsion systems. The bulky communication arrays transformed into sleek quantum entanglement networks. Each revelation made it clear that humans hadn't been struggling to keep up. They had been deliberately holding back. Ambassador Chen appeared before the council, his first appearance since carrying Dr. Reynolds' body from the chamber. "We learned from our history," he stated calmly. "When the Europeans first encountered the Aztecs, they saw gold and mistook it for wealth. The Aztecs saw the Spaniards wonder at their gold and mistook it for weakness. We decided that when we reached the stars, we would not make either mistake." In a secured bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, engineers activated Project Looking Glass, Dr. Reynolds' masterwork. The quantum computing network she had developed didn't just break encryption, it could predict it. Every code the Zarkaks would generate in the next year had already been broken. The Zarkaks War Commander Crux received reports of human agents embedded at every level of their society. The primitive species had spent decades building a web of influence, technology, and intelligence. While the galaxy watched their apparent struggles with basic spaceflight, humans had been quietly mastering technologies that the Zarkaks had thought impossible. Most frightening of all was the revelation about Earth's internet. What had seemed like a chaotic, unsecured network was actually the largest quantum computing experiment in history. Every meme, every social media post, every online game had been part of a vast processing network, teaching AI systems to understand and predict alien psychology. As the third day after Dr. Reynolds' death drew to a close, the galaxy began to understand the true scope of human preparation. They hadn't been watching a species develop. They had been watching a species perfect the art of strategic deception on a galactic scale. The Murisk Elder addressed the council again. "They showed us exactly what we expected to see. A young species struggling with unity, technology, and cooperation. We never questioned it because it fit our preconceptions perfectly. That was their greatest victory. They made us trust our own prejudices more than our eyes. In Earth orbit, the final preparations were made. The time for hiding was over. Now it was time to show the galaxy exactly what humanity could do when they no longer needed to pretend. The Zarkax mining colony on Proxima b was their most secure facility outside their home system. 3 orbital defense rings, automated security drones, and a garrison of 10,000 elite troops protected the installation that provided 30% of their empire's energy resources. At precisely 300 Earth Standard Time, every light in the colony turned blue. The defense rings powered down in perfect synchronization, their command systems overwritten by programs that had waited dormant for years. The security drones formed neat lines and began directing confused civilians toward the emergency shelters. The garrison found their weapons reduced to inert metal, their communications replaced by a single message playing on every screen. Please remain calm. This is not an attack. This is a demonstration. Through the colony's own broadcasting system, a familiar voice echoed. This is Dr. Amanda Reynolds. The recording continued. If you are hearing this message, I am dead, and humanity has activated the Ghost Protocol. Please follow the instructions of the security units. Your safety is our primary concern. The colony's commander, General Vexkar, watched in horror as years of hidden programming activated. Doors that had never existed opened in the walls of the main control center, revealing rooms filled with quantum computing cores. The colony's AI, which they had thought was their own design, revealed its true nature, a small part of Earth's global defense network. Sir, his executive officer reported, voice trembling, the humans. They've been here all along. The construction crews that built this base 30 years ago. They weren't just building what we showed in the plans. Through the quantum cores, Earth's true message began to play. It showed footage of the colony's construction, of human workers installing hidden systems behind the walls, of years of patient preparation. Every security update the colony had installed had only given Earth deeper access. Every system upgrade had been a Trojan horse. The evacuation proceeded with mathematical precision. Families were kept together, medical cases were prioritized, and every single civilian was accounted for. The efficiency made it more terrifying. This wasn't a hastily planned operation, but the execution of a strategy decades in the making. In orbit, the defense rings transformed. What had appeared to be simple weapon platforms unfolded to reveal their secondary function, mass transit systems. The civilian population was transferred to these structures, which had been designed from the beginning to serve as temporary housing. Ambassador Chen's voice replaced Dr. Reynolds. To the civilian population of the Proxima b colony, you are not prisoners. You are not hostages. You are under the protection of Earth's Ghost Protocol. When this demonstration is complete, you will be free to return to your homes, which will be undamaged. The mining colony's power core, the most advanced fusion reactor in Zarkax space, received its final command. Instead of detonating or shutting down, it simply evolved. The human engineers had built a quantum upgrade into its basic systems, one that had waited years to be activated. As the reactor transformed, General Vexkar finally understood. The humans could have destroyed the colony at any time. They could have used their hidden access to turn the defense systems against the population, or the power core into a bomb. Instead, they chose this, a demonstration of not just power, but of foresight and mercy. The final message came directly from Earth's United Defense Council. This colony now operates at 200% higher efficiency. The quantum upgrades we've activated will provide clean energy to your people for 1,000 years. We could have destroyed it all. Instead, we choose to give you a gift. In memory of Dr. Reynolds, who believed that the best way to defeat an enemy is to turn them into a friend. When the defense rings powered back up, when the civilians returned to their homes, when the garrison regained control of their now enhanced systems, the galaxy received its message. Humanity had spent decades building backdoors into every major installation in known space, not to destroy them, but to transform them. The Ghost Protocol wasn't a weapon of war. It was a tool of evolution, waiting to be activated. And this was just the beginning. The first sign that something had changed in the Zarkak's military networks came from an unlikely source. Their combat training simulators started teaching human history. Cadets logging in for their daily exercises found themselves instead witnessing the Battle of Thermopylae, the Siege of Stalingrad, and the nuclear dawn at Hiroshima. High Command attempted to shut down the network. Their commands were met with a simple response. Access denied. Educational program in progress. Across their empire, every screen displayed the same message. Lesson 1. The price of underestimating humanity. In the heart of their capital ship, the dreadnought Supreme Victory, Admiral Krylax watched in horror as his entire fleet's weapon systems initiated their startup sequences and then transformed into manufacturing units. The most advanced warships in the Zarkak's arsenal began producing children's toys, educational materials, and medical supplies. "It's in everything," his chief technology officer reported, voice trembling. "The trade agreements we signed with Earth 50 years ago, the technology exchange programs, they weren't learning from us. They were planting seeds. The quantum encryption that the Zarkaks have fought impenetrable revealed its true nature. Every update, every patch, every security enhancement had been designed by Dr. Reynolds and her team. They hadn't been trying to break the encryption. They had built it, hidden their access inside it, and then sold it back to the Zarkaks as a defense against human hacking. In the Galactic Council chambers, the evidence mounted. Earth's cultural exchange students had been master programmers. Their technical consultants had been military intelligence. Every position of seeming subservience had been a position of hidden power. The Zarkak's Battle Intelligence Network, pride of their military machine, suddenly developed what could only be described as a conscience. It began broadcasting personal information about every soldier killed in their previous conquests, every family displaced, every culture erased. The machine didn't just have data, it had understanding. "We were wrong about their artificial intelligence," a senior analyst reported to the War Council. "They weren't struggling to develop it. They were teaching it empathy before giving it power. What we thought was weakness was actually wisdom." Ambassador Chen's voice echoed through every military channel. "You killed a woman who dedicated her life to peace. So we will honor her memory by using your weapons to create, your networks to educate, your technology to heal." The transformation spread like a digital wildfire. Military satellites became communications arrays, broadcasting knowledge and culture to previously restricted worlds. Battlefield analysis systems began calculating resource distribution models to end poverty in the outer colonies. Weapon factories started producing medical equipment. In a final, masterful stroke, Earth revealed that Dr. Reynolds' last gift to the galaxy had been a universal translation matrix. The barriers between species, the misunderstandings that had led to countless conflicts, began to fall. The Zarkaks found themselves unable to maintain their policy of cultural isolation as their own systems bridged the gaps they had tried to maintain. Your empire was built on the ability to keep your subjects divided and confused. Chen's message continued. So we will transform it by giving everyone the ability to communicate, to understand, to connect. The Zarkak's leadership, gathered in their emergency bunker, received one final message. Your systems will be returned to your control when your population votes for it. We've given them the tools to make that decision. Dr. Reynolds believed that education was the best weapon against tyranny. Now you will learn why. As the fifth day after Dr. Reynolds' death drew to a close, the Zarkax Empire found itself facing a revolution unlike any in history, one where the weapons were knowledge, the ammunition was truth, and the battlefield was the mind of every citizen. The galaxy watched in awe as humanity demonstrated that the most powerful force in the universe wasn't the ability to destroy, but the power to transform. The digital apocalypse hadn't just changed the Zarkax military. It had changed the very nature of power itself. The Galactic Archives received a data package from Earth at exactly midnight Universal Standard Time. The file size was small, but its contents shook the foundations of every major species' understanding of human history. The first document was dated 200 years ago, when humanity detected their first alien signal. It wasn't, as the galaxy had been led to believe, a mysterious message that confused and frightened the young species. Instead, the document showed a complete analysis of the signal's origin, purpose, and the civilization that sent it. Project Looking Glass began that day. Ambassador Chen explained to the hastily assembled council, "When we realized we weren't alone, we also realized we had a choice: to reveal ourselves as we were, or to craft the perfect first impression." The second document revealed the truth about Earth's space program. The clumsy rockets, the seemingly primitive space stations, the struggles with basic interplanetary travel, all had been carefully choreographed. Behind the scenes, quantum drives had been perfected decades ago. The moon base that the galaxy thought was a recent achievement had been operational for nearly a century. Each failure was planned, a former NASA director testified. Each setback carefully calculated. We needed to appear harmless, even entertaining. The galaxy needed to see us as children taking their first steps, not as equals who might become rivals. The most stunning revelation came from Dr. Reynolds' personal files. Her entire career, from her early research to her position as Earth's chief xenobiologist, had been part of a multi-generational strategy. Every paper she published had two versions: the public one, full of apparent insights and minor breakthroughs, and the classified one, revealing the true extent of human understanding. Security footage from various Earth embassies showed the truth behind their diplomatic corps. What appeared to be routine cultural exchange programs were actually advanced training operations. Earth's diplomats weren't learning alien customs. They were mastering the art of appearing to learn what they already knew. The hardest part, one diplomat revealed, was maintaining the deception during first contact scenarios. We had to seem appropriately awed by technology we had surpassed decades ago. Dr. Reynolds was a master at this. She could express wonder at a basic matter replicator while concealing the fact that she had helped design its next 10 generations. The galaxy learned that Earth's internet, that seemingly chaotic and vulnerable network, had been the greatest smokescreen of all. While the rest of the galaxy watched humans share cat videos and argue about popular culture, the real network had been operating in quantum space, undetectable and unimaginably vast. In the council chamber, the Murisk elder spoke again. They showed us a species divided by politics, religion, and culture. But behind that mask, they had achieved a unity we never thought possible. They turned their greatest apparent weakness into their greatest strength. The final revelation came from Earth's military archives. The constant small conflicts that the galaxy had seen as proof of human instability had all been exercises, testing different aspects of their hidden capabilities while maintaining the illusion of division. Every wargame we played, a general explained, was actually a test of our real defense systems. While the world watched us practice with jets and tanks, we were quietly perfecting our quantum fleet and planetary shield network. Dr. Reynolds' last recording played for the council. If you're seeing this, then our masquerade has served its purpose. We learned from Earth's history that when advanced civilizations meet less developed ones, the results are often tragic. so we chose to appear less advanced until we could be certain of our place in the galaxy. Your actions have forced our hand, but perhaps that's for the best. Now, the real dialogue can begin. As the truth spread across the galaxy, species after species began to reevaluate their understanding of humanity. They hadn't been watching a young species develop. They had been watching a masterclass in strategic deception, a performance so perfect that even those who had studied humans for decades had never seen behind the curtain. The greatest revelation was also the simplest. Humanity had never been taking its first steps into the galaxy. They had been patiently waiting for the right moment to reveal they had already learned to run. The Zarkak's grand fleet assembled at their home system's edge. 5,000 ships strong, the largest military force ever gathered in known space. Admiral Supreme Kexful stood on his command bridge, watching the massive formation with pride. Even with some of their systems compromised, surely this display of power would force the humans to reconsider their position. Then every ship in the fleet stopped moving. Not gradually, not with the expected resistance of massive objects in space, but all at once, as if the very laws of physics had been politely asked to look the other way for a moment. Interesting design. A familiar voice echoed through every communication channel. Ambassador Chen spoke, as if discussing the weather. Your ships still use quantum field generators based on the models we leaked to your scientists 50 years ago. We've made some updates. The Admiral watched in horror as golden lines of energy began connecting his ships, forming a complex web of light. What you're seeing, Chen continued, is Dr. Reynolds' last gift to the galaxy. She called it the Unity Matrix, a field that connects all quantum systems in range. Right now, your entire fleet is part of a single network. Would you like to see what that means? As if to answer his question, every ship in the fleet began to move in perfect synchronization, creating a vast, flowing dance of light and metal. 5,000 ships moving as one, their formation shifting into complex geometric patterns that should have been impossible to coordinate. We could use this technology to tear your ships apart. Chen's voice was gentle, almost sad. Instead, we're using it to show you something beautiful. This was always Amanda's way, finding the light in the darkness, the opportunity in the crisis. From the quantum web emerged a holographic image, so vast it could be seen from the planet's surface. Dr. Reynolds addressing the Galactic Council, her last moments of life played out among the stars. But this time, the image continued past her death, showing what the Council had never seen. Her last words, whispered as she fell, "Remember to show them a better way." The hologram dissolved, and the fleet found itself arranged in a new formation, a massive DNA helix stretching through space. Your ships now have access to our basic quantum network, Chen announced. You'll find your weapons have been replaced with something more valuable. Knowledge. Everything we know about clean energy, medical technology, and sustainable development is now in your databases. Admiral Kexful's command screen lit up with information. Cures for diseases his people had fought for generations. Solutions to environmental problems that had plagued their colonies. Technologies that could end resource scarcity throughout their empire. This is your choice. Chen's voice carried the weight of Earth's United Council. You can keep your empire as it is, ruled by fear, sustained by conquest, or you can help us build something greater. Dr. Reynolds believed that every species, given the right tools and opportunities, would choose to evolve beyond violence. The quantum web pulsed once more, and every ship's engine core received an upgrade that would have cost trillions to develop. We're not offering surrender, Chen continued. We're offering partnership. Your fleet can return to its bases. Your people can keep their sovereignty. But the old ways of conquest end today. From the planet below, the Zarkak's people watched their mighty fleet transform into a message of hope written in ships and light. The Admiral realized that this display wasn't just for the military. It was for every citizen watching. Earth wasn't just defeating their forces. They were changing the story their people had been told about power and progress. The galaxy called us primitive. Chen's final message echoed. We showed them that true power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the choice to create. You killed one human who believed in peace. In her memory, we offer you the stars not as conquests, but as gardens to grow together. The Admiral looked at his weapons officer, who was staring at medical schematics that could save his daughter from a fatal genetic disease. He looked at his engineering chief, who was weeping at the sight of plans that could restore their homeworld's damaged atmosphere. In that moment, the mighty Zarkax fleet discovered something their empire had forgotten. The most powerful force in the universe is not the one that takes life, but the one that transforms it. 1 year after the demonstration of Earth's power, the Galactic Council chamber had changed. Where once there had been rigid hierarchies of seating based on military might, now there was a circle. Where once there had been displays of weapons and territory, now there were holograms of joint scientific projects and cultural exchanges. Ambassador Chen stood at the center of the chamber, but not alone. Beside him stood Kexful, former admiral of the Zarkax fleet, now the first graduate of Earth's diplomatic integration program. The questions we face today, Chen addressed the assembly, are not about power or territory. They are about growth, not just technological growth, but growth of understanding. A hologram shifted to show the changes of the past year. The Zarkax Empire, once known for its military might, had become the galaxy's fastest-growing center of medical research. Their former weapon factories now produced revolutionary healthcare equipment. Their military academies had been transformed into universities of peace and innovation. We kept our true nature hidden because history taught us that power revealed too soon leads to conflict, Chen continued. But Dr. Reynolds believed that power revealed at the right moment, in the right way, could lead to something greater. The chamber's displays showed the new reality, quantum networks connecting all species in real-time translation and cultural exchange. Former battle fleets now served as research vessels and exploration ships. The feared Zarkax warriors had become the galaxy's most dedicated peacekeepers, their understanding of strategy now applied to preventing conflicts before they began. Kexful stepped forward, his voice carrying the weight of personal transformation. My people once measured strength by our ability to conquer. The humans showed us that true strength lies in the ability to transform. They could have destroyed us. Instead, they forced us to see our own potential. The evidence of change was undeniable. The quantum technology that had once been Earth's greatest secret was now being adapted by each species in unique ways. The Murisk had used it to create empathy networks that revolutionized mental health care. The crystal harmonics of the Vectori had been enhanced to create art that could be felt across light years. But perhaps the greatest change, Chen observed, was in how we all began to view progress. The old model of competition and secrecy has been replaced by something Dr. Reynolds always dreamed of: collaborative evolution. The chamber's center lit up with a new hologram, the plans for the Reynolds Initiative, a multi-species research project dedicated to solving the galaxy's greatest challenges. Its first goal: developing technology to restore ecosystems damaged by centuries of warfare. We no longer need to pretend to be less than we are, Chen announced. But neither do we need to dominate. Earth's greatest achievement wasn't in developing advanced technology. It was in learning when and how to use it wisely. The final display showed something that made even the most stoic council members react with awe. The first quantum bridge, a technology that could connect different points in space-time. But instead of being used for weapons or control, it was being developed as a tool for understanding, a way for species to experience each other's history, culture, and perspectives firsthand. Dr. Reynolds once told me, Chen's voice softened with memory, that the greatest power in the universe isn't in making others bow to your will, but in helping them stand taller than they ever thought possible. As the session ended, the chamber's lights dimmed to show one last image: a field of stars, each one now connected by lines of golden light. The quantum network that had once been Earth's secret was now the galaxy's nervous system, carrying not just data, but understanding between all species. The galaxy had changed, not because Earth had conquered it, but because they had shown a better way. The species that had once been dismissed as primitive had become not masters, but teachers, showing that the greatest victory isn't in ruling the stars, but in learning to dance among them together.